Okay, tonight we're going to do something a little bit different than what we've done in the past. We're going to do a really basic class on family. We're going to call it Family Tree Basics Part 1, Starting Your Tree. I'm essentially going to take you as if you were a brand new patron to Family Search and knew nothing about it, and take you through the process of starting your tree. And so, I mean, this will be really very basic things we're going to talk about. For some of you, you're not basic people, and we know that. So what I want you to do is as you watch this, think of other people you know, other consultants, hopefully, that maybe could use this to help them prepare to help brand new patrons in their process of getting through how to help the new patron get their tree started and know all the little ins and outs and tricky things about Family Search. So that's pretty much our game plan. What we're going to do is we'll talk a little bit about what Family Search is, creating an account, the main parts of Family Search, main features of Family Search, support for beginners, and what is this tree that we have, and some background on that, do's and don'ts, things like that, how the tree works. And then we'll show you how to build a tree from scratch, because if you've never helped a patron, excuse me, never helped a patron that didn't have a tree, you really kind of need to know what to do, because it can be a little tricky. So what is Family Search? Well, it's a nonprofit organization, a website named familysearch.org is for genealogy and education, software, and things like this. It's operated by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and it's connected to the Family History Department. Family Search used to have other names, and it used to be the Genealogy Society of Utah, way back in the old days, back in the early 1900s. And it's evolved to where the brand now is Family Search. And as we all know, they've rebranded. The library in Salt Lake is now the Family Search Library. And our former family history centers are called Family Search Centers. I had fun last night speaking to the Fresno Genealogy Society, and I started my presentation off with, we no longer have any family history centers. And I had a couple of the members just about die of apoplexy. And I had to jump in real quick and say, but all it is the name change, and they were much relieved. So I had a little fun with that, getting our point across that we're rebranded. Okay, key things to know about Family Search, and we know these things, but the public doesn't always, that anybody can use Family Search. What we need to understand is the majority of the users of Family Search are not members of the church. Don't assume that everybody out there is. In fact, you're going to find out that the majority actually aren't. And it is totally free. There's hardly anywhere online that really is totally free. Even places like Find a Grave, Billion Graves, places like those, even though they advertise that they're free, you actually have to pay to do some things. And so we're one of the rare totally free sites. And you don't actually have to get an account, but if you're going to do much of anything at Family Search, you'll find that you need to have the account. So everybody needs to get an account, especially if they're going to use Tree, because you can't use Tree without an account. And the reason for it is they want you to leave a footprint of what you do so that people know who did those things. Not that they want to get you in trouble, but it's a way for us to communicate with each other, to collaborate. Okay, creating an account. And nowadays there's a multitude of different things. If you come into the website and you don't have an account, the obvious place to go is in the upper right corner where it says create account. and it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. In fact, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 other ways to use the site other than actually creating an account. Now, you can sign in with Facebook, Google, Apple, or for members of the church, if you have a Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints account, you can use the church account and it will get you into Family Search along with Family Search. And if you're going to do the Family Search account, it's just a simple little form. And here's the form. And there's not much to it. That's the entire form. The only optional thing is down near the bottom, there's a little box you can click if you're a member so that you can put your membership number in and it becomes a member account, which allows you to see the temple things. Now, if you're working with brand new people or people that are investigating that haven't even actually been baptized yet, go ahead and sign them up with a public account. And then as soon as they get a membership number after they're baptized and the clerk records their information, then just have them come in to their account and just add the membership number, and that will convert it over to a member account. And then they'll be able to submit names and be able to do the temple work for their family in the temple. But it's really a very simple process. But now we have these other ways with Facebook, Google, Apple to get you in there. And the reason for this is their single biggest issue is people and their accounts and trying to get into the site. And so they're providing you with some options if you know your Facebook username and password or Google or Apple, you can get signed in through those and not have to go through the process of trying to recover your password and things like that in Family Search. And no matter what you do, the bottom line there is in red. Be sure the person writes down their username and password so they don't become one of the multitude of people that have to recover it. Okay, the parts of the website, the main features of Family Search are the tree, which is something we focus on, and the records, which help us by providing us with the things that we make into sources to verify our people and tree and to find new people. The Memories program, which is a fantastic program for preserving your pictures and your documents and your stories and your audio files. The Get Involved part of the program or part of the site is the old indexing section. Indexing still there. It's being somewhat not phased out necessarily yet, but it's being phased down as they do more and more artificial intelligence work on records. And I think we're going to see more and more of that over time, where instead of doing the actual transcription of records, we're just going to be verifying the artificial intelligence results that they come up with. Then another section of the website is the activities that are there, and there's over 30 different activities that you can do that are fun things that motivate people, interest people, help get kids to get involved. And so it's a great area to explore. And then, of course, for us, there's the temple section. So these are the main parts of the website. The person needs to be aware of them. They'll find that they're usually mainly the tree, hopefully records if they learn a little bit about research and the memories, at least those areas in preparation for using the temple section. Okay, what do they have for beginners? After years and years and years of waiting, they have finally started to actually come through with some help for the beginners that's in writing that people can find. In the upper right-hand corner of your page, you have the little help icon, the little question mark. If you click on that, everybody, even you and I that have been there for years, has this little section, how to do family history. The new beginner will have it right on their homepage, but everybody will have it under help. And this How to Do Family History is a section of 7 or 8 little modules of things that will walk a beginner through what family history is all about, how to find things about their family, how to get started, how to save memories, how to find the records, and on and on. We're going to focus just on one of those modules today, kind of skip over some of those others that you really don't want to skip over normally with a new patron, but we're going to go to create a family tree. That'll be the main part that we're going to go to today. But this now is all here for the beginners. Each one of these is not just one link, but a page with different activities and things for them to do, instructions and activities so that they get a feel for what's going on. They've done a pretty good job of getting this organized. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that tree. This is the thing that I find more problems with out in the public. There's a lot of people inside the church and outside the church that just don't get it. What is this tree all about? How does it work? Well, the first thing is it's a shared tree, and Family Search strives to try to have one public profile for every deceased person. I put in here that's ever lived, but let's just say for every deceased person that's in tree, all the 1.7 billion of us, they try to have one profile for each of those deceased people. Now, because of privacy, there's multitudes of duplicates in the living people, but that's because of the way the tree is structured. You and I have to have multiple copies of ourselves so that everybody in the family can actually see us. And we'll talk about that. Okay, the descendants contribute to these profiles, and they all work on the same profile so that they're working together, bringing this knowledge together rather than scattering it and having some of it over on this tree and some of it over on that tree. And so the idea is to try to gather everything together about a person. Okay, in a little more detail, basically this tree is a wiki. You might not think of it as that, but truly it actually is a wiki. Wikis are essentially community-built databases. Wikipedia is a wiki. The Family Search Research Wiki is a wiki. And Family Tree is a wiki because we build it together. Collaboration is the key to how this works. And of course, we're collaborating with people that have vast experience, and we're collaborating with people that almost don't know what they're doing. They're at the very beginning of their experience here. And so we have, sometimes people that we have to help along a little bit in that collaboration process because, we're all at different levels. This is a huge tree. There's almost 1.7 billion people in it. That's a massive thing. It's the only tree on the internet that's like this. Nobody else has had one of these that worked. Ancestry tried it years ago and gave up. And RootsWeb tried it and gave up. And Family Search tried it and they've stuck with it. And it's getting better. The goal is each person has one unique record. And one of the key points is there is no my tree. This is our tree. There's no private pedigrees. That's one of the hardest things for people to accept because they all want to have their tree. They don't understand. And so, we have to work with the parameters that Family Search gives us. If we don't like those parameters, maybe instead of just griping about it, just find a different environment that does things the way you like would be the easier way to do it if people won't accept the way Family Search wants it done. Okay, some don'ts about the site. Don't consider these names your personal property because it won't work. It's anybody that's deceased. Every person that comes into tree can see them and change them. Don't try to create your own personal pedigree because people will find it and they'll just merge it in with the other pedigrees and they'll gripe all the way because now there's duplicates, and that's what we don't want to have. And don't enter unproven people or lineages. This is not the place to test theories. Do your theory testing somewhere else, and then once you've settled that this is authentic, then put it in Family Search. Don't put your theories and guesses there because other people will treat it as if it's the real thing. And you really don't want that to happen, especially when it comes to temple work. And don't be rude with others. Think of the golden rule. There'll be times you may want to scream at somebody, but, consider how would you want to be treated? And don't deliberately add duplicate people. That's what happens to a lot of people when they try to create their own tree. And Family Search keeps saying, oh, that person's already in and that person's already in, and they don't like that. They just bypass it and put the person in anyway. And that's not what we want to do. We don't want to deliberately create duplicates. And we don't change the identity of people. If the wife of your ancestor is called Mary Jones and you think she's Sally Smith, don't change Mary Jones into Sally Smith. Mary Jones is probably a real person. Maybe she isn't the wife of your ancestor, but she's a real person. And we don't want to just wipe out her identity and replace it with other stuff. You're going to want to take her out of that family, find out where she goes and put her there, and then put your right person in there, not just switch the data. That does all kinds of havoc with the temple work. Okay, some do's. Follow Family Search's rules, please. Try to do it their way. I know it's hard. There's a lot of times we want to do things our way, but if we're going to work collaboratively and cooperatively in Family Search, we need to follow the rules. Source the people that you add into tree as best you can. The more sources, the better for verifying who they are. Only add people that you've verified as much as you can. And learn that collaboration. That's a new skill for some of us. We're used to working by ourselves. Just learn to communicate with other people. I've got a lady right now that merged one of my ancestors, and the person she merged it with has pretty much the same name, not quite, but pretty much, but it's not my ancestor because she's married to a different guy and having children at the same time as the lady that's married to my ancestor had kids. So she's obviously a different person. So I need to take the time and sit down and write to her and talk to her about this. That's collaboration. Remember, the changes you make that affect lineages will affect many other people. You don't work in a little locked down environment private to yourself. Expect that people are going to respond to you positively or negatively, depending on what you're doing. And always try to use the golden rule. I think if we'd all practice that one, the Family Search would be that much better. Okay, so now that about building your tree. Okay, the first thing a newbie needs to do is gather everything they can and maybe stick it in a box, literally, somewhere where they can find it. Begin by collecting all your documents, all the knowledge that you have. Gather everything you can find around the house, stick it in the box. Then go out and contact the older living relatives if there's older ones. And, push them to find all the other bits of information that you don't know that they might know. and that will add more to what you know about your tree. And then write all this down. Teach your patron a little bit about the basic forms we use. I'm showing a pedigree chart here. That's one of our main forms. Another form that we use is the family group sheet. Show them what a family group sheet is and how it works, and maybe help them start filling out one or two on the families that they're going to be adding into tree. They have a nice booklet called My Family. I was going to go grab one. I've got a couple in the room here, but I forgot. Used to have a online version of it, but they've done away with that, but the distribution center still sells them. Except right now they're all showing as out of publication, but they're still listed in the catalog. So I'm not sure what's going on there, if they quit production or if they're really producing, but they just don't have any. But that was a neat little tool, a little book that people could fill out, and then they could take and transfer that into tree. But you can do the same thing with family group sheets, pedigree charts, things like that. But get them started ahead of time. The more they do of this before you get to the tree, the easier their experience will be in the tree. Okay, teach them the difference about living and dead people. And I'm not talking about whether the heart works or not. We're talking about how the people and tree that are these different natures function. Living people, that person's record can only be seen by the person who creates it. So when Luann looks at the record she has, it says Luann Oakton, Virgil, her husband, can go look in the tree and he won't see that same record of Luann. He'll see a different one. If they compare the ID numbers, they'll be totally different numbers, because nobody can see that record that Luann has in her tree except Luann. That's the way living people work. Living people are put into what they call a private space, and only the person that created that person will be able to see that exact version of the person. Okay, so when we first go into the tree, we often don't have any living relatives or any relatives in our tree, or very few, only part of our tree. And most of that is because of living people. If the family search has to go through 3 or 4 generations of living people, they almost never can do it and get you to your deceased ancestors. It's just too hard even for family search to do it. And so we have to work on adding in those living people till we get back to the deceased people. Okay. And so this will be the big issue that we deal with when we try to help somebody. You're going to find that almost anybody, when the first time they ever go in, is going to have to add some people that are living, if they have any living, or even if they don't have living, sometimes the tree still doesn't pick up their deceased ancestors. Okay, deceased people, the dead are seen by everybody. You can't make them not seeable. There are no private trees in family search. If you put a deceased person in, anybody that comes into family search can see them. The goal is to have, like we've said, one record for each deceased person, and we need to add the deceased people to your tree. And when we do it carefully, because with 1.7 billion people there, there's a fair chance that sometimes they're going to already be there. So we got to be very careful when we're adding in people. Now, the one nice thing is if I do stick somebody in tree and they are a duplicate, I can always merge the 2 records, but that means then I have to learn how to merge. Sometimes we can avoid that by just being very cautious when we put the new people in. And if you actually find a deceased person in tree, they'll probably be connected to their lineage. You're going to find very few people in tree that are just a standalone person. They usually come with their ancestry, which means it's wonderful. You find one ancestor and you'll have the whole line, or you'll have at least part of the line. And we'll see that tonight. Okay, so our goal is to work from the living to the dead, literally. That's the only way to really do this. Start with the person, because the account will create that person for them, and start adding their living people till we find the deceased, and then try to find deceased people already in tree to connect to the living, and we'll have that process done. Okay, it's really simple. Add the living people until you come to the dead, then add dead until you connect with somebody who's already in the tree. So, starting for a newbie, back when we showed those 8 different modules that we found under getting started, that same program is found on their homepage at Family Search. When you turn it on and go to it, Family Search knows they don't have a tree, and so they put that right on the homepage, and it says, how do you want to get started? And so all you need to do is you click on Get Started. The 8 different modules will show up. Yes, they should look through some of the others, but for today, we're going to focus just on getting the tree started. So we're going to click on Create a Family Tree. And it comes to a page where it explains what the tree is about. And then down the page a ways, you come to a place where it says adding people to the tree, and it gives them the chance to try it. And so what we're going to do is ask them to click on Try It, and we'll go in and sit with them and help them get started. So this is what it looks like when you first go in. Rustin Lowry's my grandson, one of my grandsons. He didn't have an account, so we're going to use him as the guinea pig. And so we have Rustin, and that's all we have, folks. Family Search has no clue what to do with him. And part of it is because he's not a member of the church. But even if he was a member of the church, he'd probably not have a full pedigree. And so we have to go through the steps we've talked about. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go up there and either add a father or a mother. We'll start with his father. So we clicked on Add Father. And up comes the screen. Now, Rustin's the only person, well, actually, I'm the only person that's going to see it because I'm doing it for Rustin, to be honest with you. So anyway, Rustin, if he was doing it, the only person that would see this, he's going to put his dad's name in. He does not have to do anything other than mark it male and living because he's alive. He doesn't have to put dates and places because only Rustin can see this record. If he wants to go through and do the whole thing, he can. But in all honesty, it's not really that necessary because these are living people at this point. So he's done all he needs to do, clicks Next. And when he clicks Next, it's not going to give him any possible duplicates, even though I'm sure that Dustin is in there. Because Dustin's a living person. Even Family Search doesn't search for living people. So you, by default, the only thing you can do is create this person. So he clicks Create Person, and now Rustin has a father. Okay, that's all it took to get his father in there. It took about a minute. He knew his father's name, so he was in business. And so now we have a chance to add a father and a mother to Dustin, but we also still have Rustin's mother. And so this is what the youth are often going to have to do, is to go through this several times. After doing that same process, we got his entire living ancestry put in about 5 minutes. So there's Dustin and his mother, Heidi, who's our daughter, my wife and I, and then Dustin's parents. All 4 of the grandparents are alive, so we're all living. And so it took all of about 5 minutes, but that's all it took to do because we're not worried about the dates and places. We're just using names. These are placeholders to get us back to the deceased part of the family. And in our case, there are no living great-grandparents. So now the fun begins. So we're going to have to do some work adding deceased people. And I say add them or find them. And that's an important thing to understand. The attitude you should take when it comes to the deceased is expect to find them in tree. And then if you don't find them, you go ahead and put a new record in tree, but you're going to try your darndest to find them in tree already, because so often they are there. And every time you go back another generation, it's much more likely that they're there. So use the attitude that assuming they're already there. And your job is just to find them in those 1.7 billion names. Provide as much information as you can, and that will help you identify these people for the most part. Okay, because that assists the system in finding these people. Okay, so we'll work off of Rustin's father's side of the family. So we'll go up to his grandfather, Russell, and we're going to try to find Russell's parents. So we'll click Add Father up there, and then we'll get this form. Now, this time we're going to add everything we can. He thinks his grandfather's or great-grandfather's name is Clyde M. Lowry. He was born about 1930 here in the U.S. He does know when he died because he died back in 2002 in Fresno. So that was fairly easy to find. The family knew that for sure off the top of their heads. And so we filled that much information in, and then all we have to do is click Next. And now comes up where we have to start making some decisions. There's two columns here. There's one where the gray area is here, and then there's a right side. First, looking at this left side that comes up. This is the area where if there were no good matches, we're going to take the person that we filled out, this information, which is now here, and we're going to say create a new person. That's if he's not already in tree. Now on the right-hand side, we have a list of possible duplicates or possible people for this. In fact, there were actually 12 in that list. And I scrolled down to get Clyde Middleton Lowry, born 1929 in Tennessee and died the 8th of January in Fresno, married Lee Shannon Davis, and we know that's the great-grandmother's name. And we notice it's already got his parents there, which means we probably got a pedigree. We want that person. We don't want to have to add them in and work our stuff. We want to use what's already there. And so here's our guy right there. No problem. We click Add Match, and we get two choices. We can either add Lee or Clyde all by himself, and then go through this process for the mother. Or in this case, he's already showing with the wife who is the mother of Russell, because Lee Shannon Davis is Russell John Lowry's mother. So they're already linked together there. We're just going to click Select Couple. Now, if there had been another marriage and Family Search didn't know about it, then you would have wanted to just click the father, put him in, and then go and add the mother. But in this case, we can add the two together and then watch what happens. They come with family. That's the way I like to describe it. By putting those two people, Clyde and Lee, in there, I brought in the whole pedigree for that side of the family. And that's all it took to build that part of the tree. Okay, so now the next step would be, let's do the same thing for Denise, except this time let's try it a little different. Last time I found it was so easy, I'm going to try an optional way that also works when you think they're already there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Add Her Father, and I'm going to put Jerry Frazier in because that was his name. And I'm going to come down and I'm going to click on Wife and just put Jerry's wife in, Norma Jean Crane. And I'm just marking him as deceased. I'm not worrying about death and birth information. I'm going to do the standard search for people, parents by their name only. Because quite frankly, how many Jerry Fraziers marry Norma Jean Cranes? I expect there's one. If they're in tree, they're going to pop right up. So let's see what happens. I click next. I can put Jerry Frazier in if I want, but look at this, Jerry Don Frazier. Here's his birth date. Here's two spouses, Norma Jean Crane and Martha Reese. Yeah, they divorced. I couldn't remember if Norma died or divorced. Norma and Jerry divorced, and he remarried Martha. But his parents are showing again, Frederick H. Frazier in Opal, England. So I know this is the father. Okay, the real mother is Norma Jean Crane. Family Search is going to have a little bit of a problem with that because when I want to click on Add a Match and I click on that Add a Match up there, it's not really going to work for the wives. I'm going to have to go in and add Norma as the wife because there's two of them there and they don't give you a second option to pick which one of the two. So I'll actually have to go in and add Norma later. But after doing her, I now have a whole half of the pedigree. And that's how fast it was. And then we go to the other side of the tree and they'll have an entire tree there. So it's really not hard to get the person started. Now, if they don't have any family and tree, that's right, you will have to go slower, but I guarantee you almost always, unless you're working in an area that's not the United States or Mexico or one of these places where there's a lot of users, you're going to run into their family pretty quick. Within 2-3 generations, you're going to start finding they're already there. So this was just a demonstration to show you how to get them started from scratch. It really isn't hard. It's nothing to be afraid of. In the future, we'll take this and we'll cover this skill of adding to the tree by going a little deeper. We'll next time talk about standardizing places and dates and searching and processing duplicates and things like that. We'll get into some of the deeper topics, but try to take you step by step through helping somebody start their tree and teaching them proper techniques from the beginning. So, questions? I was hoping this would be fairly quick. It went a little longer than I expected.